For decades, the sound of a ringing rotary phone was the heartbeat of every home. Unlike today's sleek smartphones, the rotary phone demanded patience, presence, and a certain ritual to use. From the tactile spin of the dial to the heavy receiver cradled between shoulder and ear, the rotary phone was more than just a communication tool, it was a cultural icon. In this episode of the Memory Vault, we'll journey back to the mid-20th century and rediscover how the rotary phone shaped daily life, connected families, and symbolized an entire era of communication. The rotary phone was first introduced in the early 1900s, but it didn't truly define households until the 1950s. Before it arrived, people often relied on manual switchboards where an operator would physically connect your call. The rotary dial eliminated this need, giving everyday users the ability to connect directly. Each number you dialed sent pulses down the line, signaling the phone company's equipment to route your call. It was simple technology by today's standards, but at the time, it was revolutionary. Suddenly, communication was faster, more private, and widely accessible. Unlike modern phones that slip into a pocket, the rotary phone was often built into the rhythm of a home. Usually found in the hallway, kitchen, or living room, it was treated almost like a piece of furniture. Heavy, sturdy, and often in classic black, the phone was designed to last decades. Later models arrived in pastel shades, avocado green, soft pink, or sunny yellow, perfectly matching mid-century home decor. Families didn't own multiple phones. Usually there was just one, and everyone shared it. Conversations were often held within earshot of others, which gave phone calls a communal, sometimes humorous dimension. Using a rotary phone wasn't instant. It was an experience. Each number had to be carefully selected by placing your finger into the dial's hole and spinning it clockwise until it reached the metal stop. Then, you'd release it and wait for the dial to spin back. Misdial a single number, and you had to start all over again. Long-distance numbers with their area codes required extra patience. Yet this slowness gave conversations weight. Calling someone wasn't done lightly. People thought carefully before picking up the receiver, and answering the phone carried its own sense of anticipation and mystery. The rotary phone had its own soundtrack, a unique series of clicks as the dial returned, the solid clunk of hanging up the receiver, and of course, the unforgettable ring. The bell inside wasn't digital. It was a real pair of metal chimes struck by a hammer, producing a crisp, commanding sound that echoed through the house. For many, that sound meant excitement, a friend checking in, family calling from afar, or important news arriving. Unlike today's customizable ringtones, every rotary phone rang the same, and everyone knew it. One thing people often forget about rotary phones is the cord. That long spiral cord connecting the receiver to the base seemed to have a life of its own. It tangled endlessly, stretching across rooms as kids tried to talk in private, only to be yanked back when the cord reached its limit. Holding the heavy receiver against your ear for long conversations left your arm sore, yet that weight gave calls a sense of presence. Unlike today's feather-light devices, you felt every word through the solid receiver in your hand. The rotary phone also carried its own social etiquette. Long-distance calls were expensive, so families often kept them short and meaningful. Children were sometimes given strict time limits when talking with friends, especially if others were waiting to use the line. Many households had a single line shared by everyone, which meant conversations weren't entirely private. Parents could pick up another extension in the house and suddenly be part of the call, something teenagers of the era know all too well. In this way, the phone wasn't just technology, it was part of family life, complete with its own rules and boundaries. Outside the home, rotary phones extended their reach through phone booths. Dropping a coin into the slot, hearing the clink and dialing a number was a universal experience. These booths became symbols of independence for teenagers, a necessity for travelers, and even iconic backdrops in movies and television. The glass booth with its folding door offered a private world for a few brief minutes where news was shared, plans were made, and connections were kept alive. For many, the sound of coins clattering through the mechanism is as nostalgic as the phone's ring itself. The rotary phone wasn't just part of daily life, it became part of the culture. In countless movies and TV shows of the 50s through 80s, a ringing phone often marked the start of suspense, drama, or comedy. Actors clutched the receiver during emotional monologues, and detectives in crime dramas tapped the cradle to redial. Commercials often showed smiling housewives in pastel kitchens chatting on pastel phones, symbolizing both modern convenience and style. The image of a rotary phone instantly told viewers they were in the middle of ordinary life, or about to hear something important. Beyond convenience, the rotary phone shaped generations. Children memorized their friends' numbers by heart. Teenagers experienced the thrill of late-night calls, often whispering into the receiver while stretching the cord as far as it would go. Parents managed family schedules, birthday calls, and long-distance check-ins with grandparents. Even grandparents, though cautious at first, grew to rely on the phone as a way of staying connected. Unlike today, when calls are often interrupted by texts and apps, the rotary phone gave conversations undivided attention. One voice, one line, one moment in time. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, push-button phones began to replace the rotary dial. The advent of touch-tone dialing made calls faster and opened the door to new services like automated menus and call waiting. Soon after, cordless phones untethered people from walls, and eventually, cell phones changed communication forever. Rotary phones, once the centerpiece of every household, were boxed up, sold at garage sales, or tucked into attics. Yet for many, the absence of that heavy receiver and metallic ring left a void, a reminder that progress often comes with the loss of familiar comforts. Though obsolete, the rotary phone still holds a cherished place in memory. Its weight, its sound, and the very act of dialing are experiences etched into the daily lives of millions. To younger generations, it's a curiosity, but to those who lived with it, the rotary phone represents a slower, more thoughtful way of connecting with others. It was never just about making calls. It was about being present, intentional, and connected in a way that modern devices can't quite replicate. The ring of a rotary phone may have faded, but its echo still lingers in the halls of nostalgia.